field to submit explanatory or critical comments on patent applications. There's exactly the political and legal translation that he proposes to what the economists have started to propose recently about what? About considering that a patent examination should be, in a certain sense, a voluntary revelation mechanism, in the sense of, for example, Maskin, as he presents these mechanisms in his novel lecture. You have there people and organizations who have both knowledge about the matter and an incentive to bring that knowledge on the table. Use that. It will not be cheap, it will be relevant, and it will probably have as a consequence to erase the mounting of bad patents which are given in great numbers today, and to reduce the breadth which are allowed. Third line of reform, it is to propose something which might look paradoxical, like putting the fox among the hens. It is to use in a better way just competition. And that can take two forms. You might have more competition in the process of granting the patents. And you might have competition on markets where competition will be enough by its working to give incentives to innovate. So you wouldn't need patents. I take briefly the 2 points. At the Olympic Games, you grant gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals, and you might even go far. In the patent game, you grant only gold medals. When Graham Bell invented the telephone, when he had that famous first communication with one of a friend a few yards away in Boston, he went to the patent office and he asked for a patent about that. And that patent, which was granted later, not immediately, it's not never immediate, that patent which was granted later on, well, has had an enormous effect on the development of telephone and on the United States, because it was in a certain sense a patent to create the Bell telephone system. A few weeks later, of course not knowing that Graham Bell has been at the office before, Edison went to the office and asked for a patent on the invention of what? The telephone. Of course, didn't get it. Why? Why couldn't have they shared? And here is the proposition of that's very recent, the proposition of some economists who work in the field. Within a certain period, after the moment when the first inventor has come to ask for a patent, allow other inventors, if they exist, also in a certain short, a few months, maybe a year, anyway, a patent is never examined in less than 3 years. And it remains a secret for 1 year. So allow the others, which might have almost the same invention, or even the same invention, it was the case with Edison and Graham Bell, allow them to ask for a patent as well. And if 2 or 3 patents seems technically justified, share between them. I have another example in mind. You know what EPO is. It's a drug which has good effects, but also it has the effect of, giving the athletes strength that they are not naturally. EPO has been invented by 2 different firms, and the patent has been acquired at 3 months delay. What's the logic of giving to the first one, not the second? That's exactly the question which has been asked by these colleagues. And what they say is, you may give a gold medal, a silver medal, a bronze medal, but they will all be equal medals. Yes, but then you weaken the incentives to invent. No, they answer. Because you have 2 or 3 prizes available. You have a perspective of 2 or 3 prizes, and not of racing for just one. Okay, if you get it, it's a jackpot. If you don't get it, well, nothing. The incentives to race for having something which is less attractive than the jackpot met, but has a higher probability to come to you, they prove are enough to answer the objection of the people who say they distort incentives. They also prove that in terms of welfare, it's significantly better. For 2 reasons. At the end of the day, you have more inventions. And you have less consumer surplus going into monopolies. And I will finish with the 4th line of reform. And it is to go to a completely different logic. It is to go to open source. Open source is protection of intellectual property. You have very precise contracts, but these contracts are meant to allow distribution of the knowledge, not protection in the sense of monopolizing the knowledge. You might say, definitely you have no incentives. It seems you have, after all. Linux software runs with Apache more than half the servers in the web. And Red Hat, which is a large firm selling services around Linux to make the use of Linux easier, earns a lot of money. So it's not just a question of programming nuts. It's a serious business. But you have the fundamental rule that if a bit of knowledge is distributed under an open source contract, every improvement on that knowledge must also be distributed with the same open source contract. And that is very precise and legally very clear. But till recently, it was essentially a question of software. No longer. And I will definitely finish with a little story which illustrates that. At the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, 2 biochemists, one of Stanford, whose name is Claude, and one of the University of California at San Francisco, whose name is Boyer, put their mental and also laboratory research together to create the fundamental method of genetic engineering. You have a donor, maybe you or me, maybe an animal, maybe a plant. You take a gene, you know what that gene controls in the body. For example, controls the production of insulin. You transfer that gene in a bacterium, well chosen. And you do that in a certain way. And that bacterium starts to produce, the cell produce that the gene control in the initial organism. It is the way that for the first time we have been able to produce large quantities of insulin, completely pure, because it was human insulin. It was not